Hey there YouTube, it's Askew 2000. I wanted to come back and do a follow-up video slash new review and comparison between these four flashlights, which are all part of the Foursevens mini series. So I'll bring these new kids on the block back in just a little bit. I do want to kind of go over these two lights, which are both Foursevens Mini Mark IIs. I do have a previous video on this that goes a little bit more into detail. I will sort of sum up what I like and dislike about both of them. But regardless, these are fantastic lights. So Foursevens released the mini line of flashlights, which are all based around a CR123 battery, which you can tell, I mean, they're not much larger than a CR123 in and of itself. I never got my hands on the original Mini, which I think they called the Mini ML, but I did see some really great reviews, like on Outside Magazine and whatever else, about the Mini Mark II, and so I just decided to pick one up probably 2 or 3 years ago, and it's honestly been my everyday carry flashlight ever since, and I love it. It just works perfectly, and everything about it is just dead on. So after they released the Mini Mark II, Foursevens was bought out by a company, Prometheus Lights, and Prometheus said when they acquired them that they were going to continue on with the Foursevens brand, but the fate of the Mini was up in the air. Like they weren't sure if people were going to be still buying them, and they eventually did discontinue or stop production of the Mini Mark II, which I think was sad, but regardless. In a few weeks after they were acquired, I got an email, because I followed their mailing list, and they said that they found a box of Mini Mark II parts that were all in titanium, and they were going to do kind of a limited release of this titanium-only Foursevens Mini Mark II, and I knew right then and there that I wanted to pick it up because I really like limited edition stuff. And that's what my primary of that older video that I have is, comparing the differences between these two. Now, the Mini Mark II, again, is phenomenal. Has a maximum output of 1020 lumens. Don't be fooled. A lot of people think that it'll hold 1020 lumens for the entire duration of the battery, and that's not true. Because 1020 lumens on this emitter is so hot, the light would essentially melt or at least the internals would melt if you kept it at 120 lumens, or 1020 lumens. So you only get about 30 seconds to a minute of full output, and then it'll actually step back to high power, which is still pretty impressive, around 300 lumens or something. So don't think that you're going to have this incredible burst mode for an extended period of time. I really like the way that this operates. I mean, it is a twisty base. I generally prefer a button, but they did the twisty just right, and everything works. And it has memory modes, remembers what setting you had last time. You can actually do different configurations. So if you want to have it go from moonlight to low to medium to high, you can do that. Or you can change the configuration, because there is like an SOS and a beacon and whatever else you need. And so you can pick that configuration. It's a little bit tricky to try to figure that out. You have to turn on and off the light 10 times within 3 seconds, and then it'll tell you which configuration it is by blinking. It's a little bit arduous, but I just generally find that I like the standard configuration, which goes from moonlight all the way up to burst mode. And this light operates the exact same way. It's not as powerful. I think this only has a maximum output of 900 or maybe 980 lumens. They did change the emitter type, so I don't know if you can see here, but here is the aluminum Mini Mark II, and here is the titanium Mini Mark II. You can see that the color profile is just a little bit different, a little bit warmer. I actually kind of like the color profile of the titanium over the white light that you get with or white or bluish light that you get with the aluminum version. And that's one of the key differences between these. A, you don't get as much power. B, it's a different color emitter. And C, obviously this is made out of titanium, while this is made out of aluminum. Now, I will say that I prefer the aluminum over the titanium. It's neat that they made it out of titanium, but my biggest issue with this light is that titanium is kind of a galling metal. So the titanium sticks and it feels kind of gritty when you open it up. You might even be able to hear it as I kind of do it. It just kind of sticks a lot. That does eventually go away after you turn it on and off several thousand times. The titanium will smooth out, but it just doesn't compare in the action of the aluminum light. And so I've just found that I've gravitated towards the aluminum version over the titanium. So I'm going to keep this just because it is kind of a limited edition. You're not going to see these produced ever again. But for me, I just really like the aluminum feel of this light. And you get a little more power out of it, which is great. So that's about all I have to say on the Mark II. Just recently, however, I saw that Prometheus brought the mini line back, and they released the Foursevens Mini Mark III. And there are some serious upgrades and what I would actually consider a downgrade to these lights. So first off, let's just look at the standard Mini Mark III. So one thing that you obviously will see kind of a difference is that they changed the body style a little bit. And I actually do kind of prefer this body style. I like the deep grooves here. They kind of kept the same sort of cap, but it's just really smooth and easy to operate. And so I like that upgrade. It is a little bit taller. You can kind of see that there, that it's a little bit taller than the Mark II. But that's small cookies when it really comes down to it. I don't care that much about, a couple of millimeters of height difference. It is not as powerful as the Mini Mark II. I think its max output is only about 900 or maybe even 980. I think it's closer to 900 lumens. And I was kind of curious as to why maybe they decided to lower the output, because that was one of the big selling points, is that you got over 1,000 lumens with a tiny little flashlight. But I think it might be that Prometheus is just trying to be honest. I think that this is pretty close to accurate on the 1020 lumens, but I know there's a lot of flashlight companies out there that will make these huge lumen claims, and then when the independent tests come out, they find out that actually we're not really that close in terms of overall lumen output. So it's possible that they're just trying to be more honest to the consumers. I'm not really sure. It has a very similar operation. Again, it is a twisty, and it does have very similar modes. So you can do a moonlight mode. Let's see if I can do it here. There's kind of the moonlight mode. There's the low mode, and then you can go to high. And it cycles back down through moonlight. And like the Mini Mark II, it does have different configurations. So it does have the ability to do SOS and a strobe, but you have to pick that configuration. So that's one thing that I fail at, is really trying to remember those configurations. It's a point for reading the manual, because it could be important. Like if you ever actually need an SOS beacon for some reason, you don't want to spend 20 minutes just trying to cycle through and figure out which configuration has that SOS beacon. But it is there, so you can program it to do whatever you want, and you can pick the configuration that you find most desirable. Another big difference, and I'm going to start talking about the downgrades here in a little bit, is they got rid of the two-way pocket clip. I love the two-way pocket clip. It's just an ingenious idea. It's sturdy, it holds, it fits in your pocket just fine. But the thing I really like is if you need it as a headlamp, you just clip it onto the bill of your hat. I wear a baseball cap every single day, so you can turn this into a makeshift headlamp just by clipping it onto your hat. So they got rid of that with just a single way pocket clip. And I think this is partly marketing on Prometheus Light's part. So they are going to be releasing what they're calling the 360 headlamp. And this is supposed to be compatible with that. So I think part of the reason that they chose to go with a single way pocket clip, their email said that they did it because it's sturdier. Not that this is not sturdy, but they claim that this is a thicker piece of metal, so you have a sturdier pocket clip. And they did say that if there's enough demand for a two-way pocket clip, they may end up releasing it as an accessory. Regardless, I think that was kind of a downgrade in the Mark III. I think these are interchangeable, so if I wanted to put the two-way pocket clip onto the Mark III, I could probably do that. But it's just kind of sad that they didn't go with the two-way pocket clip there. Which leads me into the next thing about the differences between the Mark III and the Mark II, in that the Mark III has a magnetic tail cap. You're going to have to believe me. I guess I could put this here. Here's the magnetic tail cap for the thing. It's actually, there it goes. And that's cool. That was one of the requests, I think, when the Mark II was still in production. People wanted to have a magnetic tail cap, and that's a great idea. If you're working underneath a car, or you're doing something that you can just stick the light on a piece of metal or fridge or something like that, that's a wonderful idea. I do think that the downgrade with the pocket clip and the upgrade with the magnetic tail cap, again, are marketing on Prometheus's part, because the idea is that when they release that headlamp, the 360 headlamp, you can just stick this on top of the headlamp and voila, you have a headlamp. But again, I just think that I don't want to spend $50 on a headlamp. I have dedicated headlamps for that purpose. And I just wish they would have stuck with the kind of similar design here. Anyway, enough of my rant on the pocket clip. The action, again, is very smooth. I really like it on this aluminum body. And it doesn't have, again, as high of lumen output, like I told you that. And one other, I guess, kind of big upgrade, I see it as an upgrade anyway, is that they put in, I guess, kind of similar to an instant burst mode. So you'll notice that this one, I have it set on configuration 4, which I think is supposed to cycle from low to high, essentially. So you turn it on, you're on moonlight, you have low, and then high, there's high. And then it goes back to moonlight. So people might be wondering, like, well, where's the burst mode? Where's the 900 lumens that you want to have? And what they did is they made it so you actually have to do a technique or a certain twist in order to activate the burst mode. There's two reasons behind this. One, outside of a party trick, most people don't use the burst mode. Again, it doesn't last forever, and it'll eventually step down to high, but it's not as practical. And two, they are trying to keep up with a lot of the more modern flashlights, which have that instant burst mode capability. So, I have a Nightcore TM06, and one of the cool features about that is instead of having to cycle through every single light mode in order to get to the turbo mode, you can just do a half press on the button and boom, you're in instant turbo mode, or vice versa, instant low or whatever. So what you have to do in order to get turbo, you turn it on, and then you have to turn it on and off 2 times within like a quarter of a second. So let's see if I can do it here. There you go, there's turbo mode. And then when you turn it back off, it goes right back to the mode that you had. So I think that's a really cool idea. I've always liked having that instant burst mode capability. If you need a lot of light in a pinch, you can have instant burst mode, great, and then you can go back to the setting that you were normally using. So that was a really good upgrade, I think, on the Mini Mark III. And one thing I decided to do in this time, I've never done it with the old Mini Turbos, but they did release a turbo version. It's virtually identical, all the settings are the same, operation is the same, but instead of having this non-reflector here, they did put a little bit of a reflector on the turbo. So you can see it's a little bit larger and a little bit taller, but with the reflector you get a lot more throw. I think they report it as you can get about 200 meters of throw on turbo mode, whereas this, they report that the Mini Mark III can only do about 120 meters. So you can get a good 80 meters extension if you get the turbo version. Now it is a much more narrow beam profile. Let's see if I can compare it, get these two on at the same time. You can see that the Mini Mark III here has kind of a floodier type light profile, whereas this is more concentrated. That's to be expected with that. That's how they get the throw, is because they concentrate the light. But yeah, this is I like the idea of the turbo mode. Like I said, I never got it with the Mini Mark II. I know they have a Mini Mark II turbo. It's the same principle, same idea. One thing that, and I think part of my reason behind that, is I couldn't find any information on the beam distance on the Mini Mark II. You know, for either the turbo mode or the standard Mark II. And so I never really crossed my mind that, hey, you know, at some point I might actually need an extra 80 meters of throw. And so I just decided to pick this one up to kind of complement it. And I like it a lot. And it's still pretty pocketable, not quite as pocketable as the Mark III standard, but regardless, I like it a lot. Is there anything else about these lights? I mean, they aren't too terribly expensive. I think when I picked up the standard Mini, it came in at about $55 or so. I think the Mini Mark III you can pick up for $60, and the turbo you can pick up for $70. And you do have the option, like the Mini Mark II, you can get the combo. So the combo comes with the light, a battery, and a charging device. That's the charging device. I had the charging device from the Mark II, so I was just able to get the light only. Now, they do say on their website, and I should talk about this a little bit, when you pick up the light, they will send you one Foursevens branded RCR CR123 battery. So this is a rechargeable CR123. You can use standard CR123s like that you'd pick up in a grocery store or something, but you won't get as high of lumen output on the turbo mode. So I think you only get a max of maybe 500 lumens on turbo if you use a standard CR123 or non-rechargeable. Whereas with the rechargeable version, you get upwards of 900. So there is a benefit to going with the rechargeable battery. I will say Foursevens, or Prometheus lights in this case, is being a little bit shady, because they say on their website that you do need to buy the Foursevens branded rechargeable CR123 in order to get maximum output, and that's not really true. So you can find rechargeable CR123s that are high drain. Really the only difference between the rechargeable or the high drain is that they're a 3.7 volt battery, whereas standard CR123s are a 3 volt battery. So you don't have to buy a Foursevens branded. In fact, Foursevens doesn't make the batteries. They probably just buy them from Panasonic or something like that, and then they put their label on the top of them. You can just buy rechargeable CR123s that have 3.7 volts, and it'll still work on high capacity. So they are trying to get you to buy their batteries, which they're not horribly expensive. So I did buy a couple of spares, and you can, I think, get 2 of them for maybe $12, which is a little bit higher than you can find 3.7 volt CR123s on Amazon or something. So it's not going to break the bank to buy their batteries, but just don't be fooled in thinking that you have to buy their branded batteries. So I do like that option. Like, you know, if you do need to go to the grocery store and pick up a CR123, it will work. You just won't have as much power in the turbo mode itself. And the other kind of features that I like about these lights, I really do like the moonlight. And I'll tell you that I most often just use either the moonlight or the low. So the moonlight is great if you're camping and there's somebody sleeping next to you, or you're looking around your room or something and you don't want to wake somebody up. Having that sub-lumen output on the lights is just fantastic. I don't find that I often use high or turbo mode very often, unless I'm trying to show somebody the light. Like, hey, you want to see 1,020 lumens on this thing? And then I do it. But for the most part, I just stick to those 2 modes. So regardless, again, I think these are great lights. I'm still a little partial to the standard Mini Mark II, just a little bit slimmer profile and a little bit more pocketable, I guess, in that sense. But I do think that this is a pretty decent upgrade outside of the couple of things that I mentioned. Like, I think they should come back with the 2-way pocket clip and make it a standard feature, not have to be an accessory. And I really do like the magnetic tail cap. So I think they did a great job in trying to reintroduce the Mark IIIs or the mini series, and hopefully there will be more to come. So thank you for watching.